Good afternoon. Today we will continue to study about the determiner whose that links the subordinate clause to the main clause. The determiner whose links the subordinate clause to the main clause while focusing on the possessive determiner of the subordinate clause. In the subordinate clause, there was a possessive determiner, and the speaker finds the same subject that is indicated by the possessive determiner, or the person that is revealed by the form of the determiner, by the possessive determiner as the owner of an object, becomes the precedent in the main clause. The speaker finds the same person, same owner in the main clause as the precedent. Then the speaker replaces the possessive determiner into the determiner whose, and the speaker links the phrase of the noun or pronoun as a phrase of the conjunction. In this sentence, whose voice is the phrase of the conjunction. This phrase has the role as the conjunction for this sentence, including the possessive or the determiner whose. And we can also say that the speaker describes the belonging of the precedent in the subordinate clause. We've studied about the third example that the determiner whose is applied, and Jesus Christ is the one whose voice the righteous motivation is. As the precedent, the one, and the determiner whose indicate the same subject, the subordinate clause whose voice the righteous motivation is a description about the subjective complement that belongs to the precedent, the one. So we can say that the subjective complement of the main clause, the one, is described by the phrase of the noun, voice, whose voice, and the subordinate clause. The phrase of the noun whose voice indicates the subjective complement to define the subject, the righteous motivation in the subordinate clause. We can break it down into the two clauses before being integrated into a sentence. The first one is this: Jesus Christ is the one. And the second one is this: the righteous motivation is his voice. And we find that the possessive determiner is applied in the second clause, and we also find that the subject that the possessive determiner his reveals is the one in the first clause. So the speaker abbreviates the possessive determiner his and replaces into the conjunction whose. Then we also see that whose and the noun voice form a phrase of conjunction, and this phrase of the conjunction is linked right behind the precedent in the main clause, and the other part of the clause, the second clause, is stated in the exact order as the original clause. Let's read the explanation together. The speaker links the subordinate clause to the main clause because the phrase of the noun we want to be the precedent corresponds with the determiner his. The speaker links the subordinate clause to the main clause with a way to replace the determiner his, the possessive determiner his, with the subordinating conjunction whose, and state the subordinate clause whose subject complement is the phrase of the noun whose voice behind the precedent, the one in the main clause. There is a conference. This conference is about determining a precedent that the subordinating conjunction indicates among the options of the precedent. This conference is able to be dealt with in the situation that we need to find out the precedent that occurs with the conjunction whose. This also means that the conjunction whose is able to be applied in both ways. The defining way and the non-defining way. The defining way, in the non-defining way, we do not use the comma. But in the non-defining way, we use the comma to reveal that the main clause is needed to be completely stated at first, and then the speaker declares the statement of the main clause is completed with the comma, and the speaker states the subordinate clause starting with the conjunction whose right after the comma with the noun or pronoun. This is how we use the conjunction whose as in the non-defining way. So in this case, in the case that we apply the conjunction whose in the non-defining way, we need to consider the options of the precedent. Okay, let's read the other title. The defining or non-defining way to apply the subordinating conjunction that links the subordinate clause as a description to the main clause. The conjunctions except the pronoun, the related pronoun that is the conjunctions except the pronoun that are able to be applied in both ways, and the conjunction whose is also able to be applied in both ways. Okay, the application of a subordinating conjunction in a defining or a non-defining way indicates the way to arrange the precedent in the main clause and the subordinating conjunction. The speaker can apply the subordinating conjunction to indicate the same subject or object as the precedent of the main clause in a defining way without the comma, or in a non-defining way with a comma. The fact that a conjunction is able to be applied in the non-defining way means that the conjunction can indicate the subject or object in the main clause selectively. The comma reveals that the statement of the main clause is finished, completely stated. The fact that the subordinate clause has a description about a subject or an object indicated by the precedent in the main clause is stated behind the statement of the main clause connotes that the speaker prioritizes the main intention conveyed from the main clause. Like the speaker prioritizes stating the phrase of a preposition, like in the movie or something like that. The speaker can apply the conjunction in the non-defining way. So the subordinating conjunction applied to link the subordinate clause to the main clause in a non-defining way with a comma reveals that one of the options of the precedent in the main clause is determined. There is a small conference. The described subject or object by the subordinate clause is applied as an indication. So the discussion to verify the way of applying the subordinating conjunction, that, whether, who, whose, what, which, or all, in a defined way or a non-defined way to link the subordinate clause that has a trait as an indication to main clause is invalid. Because these conjunctions do not need a precedent to describe the conjunctions that links the subordinate clause as a description for a precedent is able to be considered in the application of the conjunction in the non-defining way, because the non-defining way means that the listeners are out to figure out the exact precedent out of the options, and these conjunctions indicate a subject or an object without the precedent. So in the structure of the sentence, these conjunctions do not need to the speaker who applies these conjunctions does not need to figure out whether the speaker applies the conjunction in the defining way or the non-defining way. There is an example. This is more intuitive when we deal with the example. The first one is this. I ask who is in the classroom. The speaker indicates the object of the transitive verb ask in the main clause with the subordinate clause who is in the classroom. In this sentence, we find that the subordinate clause who is in the classroom is applied as an indication, as the object of the main clause. As the subordinate clause who is in the classroom is an indication about an object. The discussion about whether the pronoun who is applied in a defining way or a non-defining way is invalid. It is not needed. The second clause is this. The second sentence is this. Jesus Christ actualizes what I have always looked for. The speaker indicates the object of the transitive verb actualizes in the main clause with the subordinate clause what I have always looked for. What a merciful sentence it is. In the sentence, the speaker applies the subordinate clause what I have always looked for as the object of the main clause. The object receives the definition of the transitive verb actualizes from the subject, Jesus Christ. And we also find that the pronoun what that indicate a thing that is not a person is the object of the preposition for in the subordinate clause. The subordinate clause what I have always looked for has the trait as an indication. So the discussion about whether the subordinating conjunction what is applied in a defining way or in a non-defining way is invalid. There is a conference. The pronoun that applied as a subordinating conjunction to link the subordinate clause that has the trait as a description to the main clause indicates every subject or object whose number is more than 1. So the president in the main clause does not need to be selected. This means that the pronoun that makes the subordinate clause as a description can indicate every subject or object as the president in the defining way. Right behind the president, the speaker can apply the pronoun that. So we can understand the reason why the pronoun that is not applied in the non-defined way. So the pronoun that links the subordinate clause has the trait as a description to the main clause is applied in the defined way only. There's a sentence. I greet a teacher and a student that are in a classroom. So before we study this example, let's take a pause. Let's study this sentence in the next class. Thank you for watching.